Nvidia has earnings tomorrow after hours. That is Wednesday, February 16th, and it is going to be insane. The stock just today went up nearly 10%. And if you include after hours trading, it is up 10% on the day. And there's a lot of anticipation here. And we've seen what came out of AMD's earnings call. Lisa Su basically told everybody, hey, chip shortage is still going to be around all year long, so get used to it. This gives all of the advantage to the chip makers and semiconductor space as well, because demand's so strong, they could almost name their price. And so what does that do for these companies? This gives them a higher profit margin on the limited supply that they have to give. This is great for something like Nvidia, but Nvidia's business isn't just in graphics card making anymore. That's what it's known for, but there is so much more to the business, and I'm going to get into that in just a moment. The only thing I ask before we get into this is you hit that like button and also consider joining the Chaos crew. You can hit the join button next to subscribe. Actually supports the channel, the studio you see behind you. I put a watch list out every day of the week before the market opens to give you a nice snapshot of what the market's doing and some stocks that might be impacted based off of whatever's going on that day. It's a great list. I give a nice technical breakdown for each stock that I put out, and would love to have you guys as part of the crew. Let's look at the chart here on Nvidia and kind of see where the possibilities are, whether they beat or whether they don't. Okay, so as of right now, the average estimate for expectations on earnings per share is supposed to be around $1.22. They're going to bring in $7.42 billion this quarter, as that's what the expectation is. So if they come in above those numbers, Nvidia should do relatively well. But as we know, it's not about that. It's about the outlook. Does Nvidia have what it takes to give a really nice outlook for the rest of the year? And I mentioned earlier that it's not always about the graphics card and the chip making side of their business. The big key here that many may not realize is Nvidia's data center revenue. Nvidia, as we know, specializes in chips for the gaming and graphics industry, being an innovator in development of GPUs. Turns out that the strong computational capabilities used by these GPUs to power video games and graphics software are also well suited for technologies like AI and machine learning. And this is where Nvidia really stands out. The data center revenue rose sharply in fiscal year of last year, 2021, amid the pandemic, and they climbed 125%. That acceleration from the previous year's growth of just 1.7% is astounding. The second quarter of fiscal year 2021 saw data center revenue grow as fast as 167.5% year over year. Analysts expect now that this revenue continued to accelerate into fiscal year 2022, rising another 66%. If they come in anything higher than that, then expect this stock to go to skyrocket. I think that that's certainly going to be the key that a lot of people are focused on. Yes, the GPUs, the graphics cards, all that's going to come into play as far as revenue is concerned. But really, the growth story is going to be on that side of their business. Now, if they come in here and beat and give a surprise on outlook, watch for this 50-day moving average to absolutely get obliterated. It's indicated by this yellow line here. It's sitting at around $271 as of today. The 200-day moving average may act as a support if there's any kind of disappointment on those earnings. It's sitting at $228 a share, but I really like this support as well. You can see that's created a nice base after coming down to test that 200-day moving average. We've seen this hold support really well, actually at around $238 a share. If this actually outperforms, look for like I said, a huge breakout over the 50-day moving average, and we can see tests of possibly $313 a share. You may make the argument that 300 could be that spot because it's just a mental resistance. It's a nice whole number that people look at. But I'm looking here and I'm saying 313 seems to be a little bit more reasonable. I think that that's probably the levels that we see that, especially if the outlook on the data center revenue is anything that people are expecting any kind of surprise on, especially if the outlook on the data center revenue comes in as a surprise. Looking at the RSI, despite the move up, is actually right dead center in the middle. It's sitting at around 54. So the risk reward here is actually quite good despite the move up. So I think that this actually is set up for a really nice move when it comes to risk reward. It's sitting right here. It's off of support. We're seeing a lot of momentum here, but as we know, earnings ruin charts. So if we go into these earnings and they disappoint, that chart's going to get absolutely demolished. Now there's areas like I had pointed out that this could potentially test and hold over. But again, we always know what can come out of that. The thing of it is, if we look at earnings per share and they come in and beat on those earnings per share and revenue, that doesn't tell you the whole story. We really have to focus on the outlook here. A lot of people get this confused. Oh, well, what happened? They beat earnings per share. They beat revenue. Why isn't the stock going up? It's not always a guarantee because we have to look at guidance. Guidance is going to be big here. The data center revenue is going to be something that's really going to be focused on. Obviously, they have so much going on with their business as well. There's also this part of Nvidia in which they have become a victim of their own success. As we know, the FTC kind of put the smackdown on the ARM acquisition because the company is getting massive. And so I think that the ARM acquisition would have been great. And I think that it honestly should have gone through. But as we know, the FTC always has to put their nose in things. The government always has to, have their say. And so that is also something that I think should be noted. A victim of their own success. And what I mean by that more specifically is that if the bar is set too high here for Nvidia, it could spell danger. So while I think that they should and could beat earnings per share, and I think that the outlook should actually be really good given the environment we're in with Nvidia having pricing power, there is this risk that they are being set up for failure in that they have been so successful and that the expectation is so high that maybe Nvidia doesn't actually meet that. There is that possibility. We've seen this many times before. There's also this scenario in which we see a big run up on those expectations and then they meet them. And then there's a selling of the news type of event. Maybe there's nothing else to look forward to if they come in and just meet expectations. And so what do people want to hold on to it for if there's nothing more to look forward to? So those are some risks involved with holding Nvidia, even though I think that they are going to be just fine. I think if you're a long-term holder of Nvidia, I don't think there's any reason to sell. And I think that if you're a short-term holder of Nvidia, I think that you'll be okay as well, as long as you're managing that risk. As we always know, it's a 50-50 shot with earnings and the reaction that investors have off of those earnings. With that being said, let me know what you think in the comments below about Nvidia. Do you think that they beat and do you think it goes higher from here? I mean, the stock's almost $750 billion in valuation. This is pretty crazy. I think that Nvidia has the capability of being the next $1 trillion company, but I want to hear from you on this. Are you still a long-term holder or are you cautiously optimistic? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the 3:45 live showing and reaction to Nvidia. So make sure you hit the subscribe and the notification bell to get notified when I do go live. I'll see you then.